Hey there everyone, meteorologist Nicole Madden here, and of course the big talker is Hurricane Irma. It made landfall in Barbuda over the past few hours, and that was the first landfall that it's made as it's crossing the Caribbean. And sad to note that there hasn't been any communication here. This is a Category 5 hurricane. That means we're seeing sustained winds at 185 miles per hour, and it's still continuing this west-northwest path here at about 16 miles per hour, so chugging along. One thing to note is that the eye wall is kind of becoming a little bit off center. That should be some good news here, that we could potentially see some weakening of this storm, and it's also running into some mid-level shear. So when you think of shear, just think about cutting the grass. So you just shear off some of the top layer of that grass. It's shearing off the top of these thunderstorms, so that's going to help choke things out just a little bit, and hopefully we'll see some weakening within the next few hours. But as of now, not exactly indicating that. Now this storm is chugging along here towards Puerto Rico. It will reach landfall here within the next few hours here. By nighttime, we will see landfall with Puerto Rico. So beginning to see some of that radar imagery coming out of there as well, with very heavy rains, and we're seeing gusts over 50 miles per hour and still a few hours out from that. Now, Hurricane Irma, again, at 185 miles per hour, that pressure, when you see that pressure drop here, it's at 918 millibars. You may have heard that being talked about quite a bit. That means that the storm is strengthening. So that's why we keep a good eye on that. And we're going to continue to watch that over the next few hours and, of course, over the next few days. Now, here's the path. This is from the National Hurricane Center and their best estimate of where Irma could go over the next few days. And you can see here, keeping Category 5 strength is the estimate through Thursday and even into Saturday. That's when we'll begin to see a little bit of weakening here, but still a Category 4 storm is catastrophic. This storm, again, just gliding through the Caribbean, hitting up the islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, moving through Puerto Rico, and now looking to skirt just north of Cuba. So the latest track with this model, it actually looks like we just got our latest track in right now. So there you go. You're getting the very latest here with this Facebook Live. You'll notice it is more of a leftward track, or more of a rightward track, I should say, more to the east of where it was yesterday. So you see this big cone that we have here. This eye could make landfall here within 200 miles usually is where we have that indicated. So that's why we have such a wide variety, because we've had a difference here in the models over the past few days. If you noticed yesterday, a lot of the tracks were making it more of a westward track. Today, they're a little bit more eastward. So looking to make landfall here, or at least just slice Miami, West Palm Beach early Saturday morning as a Category 4 storm. With wind speeds here sustained at 155 miles per hour and continuing up the coast as a Category 3 storm that looks like to be near Melbourne or just south of Jacksonville. And again, we could see this storm anywhere within this cone over the next, over the next 3, 4, 5 days. Now, as we go ahead and look at some of the tracks, these are the spaghetti models. These are all the different model data that we have here. And where we get this data from is from different algorithms. So they're spit out. They all come up with their own idea based on different trends of where exactly Irma might go. And if you'll notice, when they come together like this, there's some good consistency there that this is where the storm's likely to go. So it's going to continue that west-northwest progression and then slice up very sharply here just to the east of Florida. But remember, this is a 300-mile wide hurricane. This is a very, very large hurricane. So we'll still be seeing impacts here to the Florida coast. And on the left side of that storm, that's where you do see that significant storm surge, which, if you know, storm surge is the deadliest part of these tropical systems. Now, taking it more to a local perspective, especially for us in the Carolinas, it looks to edge out here Miami and continue back into the Atlantic and then swing up into the Carolinas if this progression continues. And it's something that we have to keep an eye on because it has been changing over the past few days. But if this were to happen, that would mean that we would make landfall again in South Carolina near Charleston and continue its track up here through the Carolinas and impact Charlotte sometime late Monday into Tuesday. Now, with tropical force winds, this is showing the impact here when we could expect to see them. So over 35 miles per hour, you can see as early as Friday evening, Florida will begin to feel those tropical storm force winds, and these are gusts that we'll be seeing as we continue here through the weekend into Sunday and even into Monday. That's when we can begin to see those tropical storm force winds or begin to feel some of that as we head into Sunday afternoon into Sunday evening here for the South Carolina coast. So this is something that we're definitely keeping our eye on. Again, we've seen the consistency here with the models lining up to the east coast of Florida, but it's still not set in stone. Things can change over the next few days, so we're going to be keeping our eye on it and paying very close attention to the potential impacts, of course, here, especially in the Carolinas, and what you can expect in the coming days. So, of course, if you have family along the coast, I hope that they have their plans in place, beginning to make those, maybe even those evacuation preps as well, because this is a very large storm and could do a lot of damage and a lot of harm. So we're going to keep our eye on it. You can definitely count on the WCCB meteorologists here to keep you in the know with your WeatherWise forecast for the very latest. If anyone has any questions, I'm here to answer anything that you have.
Do you know at what point Charlotte could start seeing these winds and rain from the storm?
It wouldn't be until probably Tuesday. Monday or Tuesday is when we'll begin to see those impacts, the earliest.
And a lot of people, when they think about this, they think about Hugo and the impacts it had in Charlotte. Are you guys seeing any type of similarities in these two storms?
We could definitely see that with the very heavy rainfall. So it's something to keep an eye on here over the next few days, that we could see that catastrophic flooding. The good news about this is that it's going to be moving through pretty quickly. So it's not going to be sitting. It looks likely that it's going to continue to cut through and then move back out into the Atlantic. So that's a little bit of some good news. It won't sit and spin.
So that's kind of like what happened with Harvey, how it kind of sat over Houston.
Yeah, Harvey just sat there and it kept bringing in all of this rain, but Irma looks to move pretty quickly.
And will we get tornadoes from the storm?
There is a potential. So when you have any sort of tropical system, the greatest probability to see tornadoes, they're usually quick spin-ups. I know that means nothing because a tornado, it sounds scary, but usually these are quick spin-ups. They're small and they happen very quickly. They're rain-wrapped. Usually where we see them is on the right side of the hurricane, of that eye wall, and it's about 100 miles from the eye wall, to the right of it. So if you imagine that to the east. So if it does make an impact here, depending on where it goes, we could see some of those tornadoes churning up along the South Carolina coast, along the North Carolina coast. But depending on that path, if it does make it inland, we could be seeing the potential for some of those tornadoes here as well by Tuesday, Wednesday next week. Nothing to be scared of, just be prepared, and we'll keep you updated.
It says if it keeps the track and plows into South Carolina, will it weaken or be like Hugo, a Category 2 when it comes inland?
That's hard to say right now. It's really going to be dependent on the track, how it progresses here over the islands, how much it weakens if it does move into Florida and makes landfall into Florida. So it's going to be very telling over the next few days.
And can you kind of explain the different spaghetti tracks and what they mean with the European models, with the American models, how they work?
Yeah, okay. Well, we can go back there to that graphic. So when we see the different models, basically these are just different systems. They have a different algorithm. They have different variables that they put in, and they spit out their best idea of where the storms may go. Now, usually I'll say that for tropical systems, the Euro does a pretty good job at, or I shouldn't say a good job. It's a little bit more positive here on the potential tracks. I know that the National Hurricane Center, that's kind of where they're leaning and where they're getting their input from. But basically, they just take their own variables, they have their own algorithms, and they spit out information to know where the tracks might go. So you can see some of them are veering way off in the distance, but when you see the models line up like that, that means that there's a pretty good idea that this is where the track of the storm will go.
If they have family in Jacksonville, Florida, should they be heading that way sooner or later? Away from Jacksonville.
Yeah, I would head away from Jacksonville. Anywhere along the coast, especially on the east side of Florida, it would be a good idea to move inland.
All right.
I have a question
Sure.
about the storm following behind. I presume they mean
Jose.
Jose.
Yes.
Any info on
As of right now, I don't have much information. Basically, the eyes have been on Irma. One thing I would note is that Irma's taking in a lot of energy, so Jose will most likely get choked out and not follow up and grow in its path, but it'll be something that we'll be watching. It's about a week behind Irma, so still plenty of time to prepare if it does continue through. We also have Katia. Katia is also in the Gulf right now as a tropical storm as well. That's moving into Mexico. So a lot going on from very quiet years from 2005 to about 2015. It was very, very quiet. Last year we had Matthew that we had to deal with and Hermine, and now we're having a very active season this year as well.
All right, that's
Any
all
other
the
questions?
over here.
Okay. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions, make sure you type them down. Myself, Greg, Michelle, we'll make sure we'll try our best to get back to you and answer your questions. All right.